Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Product School webinar. I'm grateful to everyone who's attending this webinar today, and I promise to make next few minutes as interesting as possible. Today, I'm going to talk about a topic that has been spoken about quite a bit, and I want to add my own learning and experiences to this interesting subject of being product manager of a marketplace product. Before we start, let me take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Ankur Yadav, and I am currently working with Microsoft as a product manager based out of India Development Center in Bangalore. As this slide puts it out there, I have worked in 3 different product companies before joining Microsoft. I started my product career in fintech domain with Axis Bank, where I revamped their flagship retail mobile application and spent some time on mobile payments, where I managed 2 payment platforms, UPI and IMPS. Around the same time, the OTT industry in India was just booming, and I got this exciting opportunity to launch an OTT app called Z5 in India and across key markets of Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Europe for Z Entertainment. I then moved on to work for the largest online travel aggregator in India called MakeMyTrip. My product initiative at MakeMyTrip was awarded Startup Initiative of the Year for launching the new vertical of activities and attractions for the organization. Today, I'm working on Microsoft Teams platform ecosystem. In this role, I'm helping various strategic partners, independent software vendors across the Eastern Hemisphere in envisioning and developing apps on Microsoft Teams platform. Broadly, I would be covering these 3 agenda items today. I'll start with how challenging it is to build a marketplace product, as product managers must juggle between buyers and sellers. In this section, I will also share some tips that can help you in making optimal decisions. Next, I'll talk about scaling up the marketplace product, which is the next milestone after the initial product is built. Here, I'll talk about growth hacks that might work for you. In the last part of the webinar, I will discuss about taking the product to 10x or 100x level. This is quite important because if you feel that building a product from 0 to 1 is daunting, there will be more hurdles when you go to the next level. I will cover points around building maturity and structure into your product in this section. So without further ado, let's jump in. Oh, before we begin today's webinar, I wanted to state a disclaimer. The content in this webinar is around my own professional experience. Some examples that will be quoted in this webinar were either observed by me or I read them from a trustworthy source. I have absolutely no intention of professing that the content in my today's presentation is the only way to start and grow a marketplace product. So with that, let's finally jump into today's session. To appreciate the nuances and depth of a marketplace product, it is quite important to understand what exactly a marketplace business is. To put it in very simple terms, a marketplace business has threefold definition to it. Number one, it helps demand. That is, it gives an interface to the people who want a product. These are your customers or your buyers. Number two, it finds supply. That is, it provides a platform to the people who have the product. These are your vendors or your sellers. And number three, it facilitates a financial transaction between these buyers and sellers. Essentially, it is a flywheel, and it is the responsibility of the product manager to ensure it keeps running smoothly to connect sellers on one side and buyers on the other side. Here are some examples of the classic marketplaces. As you may notice, marketplace products span multiple industries and domains. It's not only about Airbnb connecting the property owners and the guests, but it's also about Microsoft Teams that lets SaaS companies to build their offering for the employees of enterprises to ease business workflows. This brings us to another important question. Why is there so much craze around marketplace products? Or why are marketplaces great businesses? And the answer to this question is not just one benefit but marketplaces have multiple advantages to them. For example, marketplace business doesn't own any supply, and hence they are very scalable and flexible. Another great advantage to a marketplace business is that they create superb network effects. More users get even more users, and hence it is very hard to replicate a marketplace. With that introduction on marketplace products, let me now shift gear and focus on the first part of our webinar, that is about building a great marketplace product. Any product manager in a new marketplace product will always face this chicken and egg problem. Should I focus more on the supply side to build a great supplier engine or a vendor portal? Or should I focus more on the demand side and invest more energy into building an efficient front-end funnel? The challenge really here is that you cannot start on one side and then build the other side. If there are no customers, then no seller would be convinced enough to sell on your platform. And if there are no enough sellers, then why would customers even visit your product? The answer to this question lies in history. I know it sounds funny, but if you observe some of the great marketplace products out there, you will realize very soon that supply is generally the king early on. More than three-fourths of the today's biggest marketplaces focused on supply. And for those that did not, supply came in quite easily. Now we know that we need to focus on supply more in the early stages. But how do we go about it? Let me give you a 3-point formula here to solve this challenge. Number one, your vendor side of the product should have a seamless sign-up or an onboarding process. Now, depending on your business, your supplier side can be either regulated or unregulated. Regulated is the one where your business development team might want to vet the vendors first. And in the unregulated one, any vendor with the required supply can sign up on your platform and start selling without any intervention. Whatever the case may be, you need to ensure that entire onboarding flow is free of any hassles. Number two, your vendor portal should definitely have the hygiene features to start with. These features usually are a dashboard to view and download data of bookings, cancellations, etc. Maybe a smooth redemption flow for the vendor to record the sale once the customer walks in, a notifications engine to inform bookings data in real time, and maybe a communication platform for the vendor to reach out to the customers post the booking. And finally, number three, this is not very common these days, but you can start thinking about providing extension points for your buyers to build on your seller platform. For example, you can expose public APIs or maybe an interface on your buyer side that can be customized by your sellers. Another important aspect once you have built a great seller portal is how to onboard the first set of suppliers on your marketplace product. There are multiple strategies to do this, but I want to highlight the most impactful ones that are employed by many successful marketplaces. Number one, feet on the street. During my time at MakeMyTrip, direct sales was critical to get the first listings on the platform. It enabled us to pick and choose different supply types and build the right mix of activities. We sent out our business development team members across the leisure destination in India. These team members were accountable for their market and could themselves decide which supply to acquire in terms of region, size, and price. Number two, piggybacking. When Uber was just starting out, the first thing their launch team would do when they launched a new market was to go straight to Craigslist to figure out the supply. Number three, referrals. Double digits of percentages of new supply early on came from referrals and ambassador programs for a company called Lyft. Number four, word of mouth. For Eventbrite, word of mouth was listed as a key strength and quantified to be 1/3 of the supply awareness in their IPO filing. And finally, number five, sponsoring suppliers. Breather subsidized its supply side with things like furniture and locks to increase the quality. To sum up this entire slide, I would recommend that you start with two of these levers to grow your supply. We have covered one side of the coin, However, it is equally crucial that we cover the demand side as well. After all, this is the face of a business for retail and business customers that are looking to book orders on your platform. According to me, there are four pillars to build your customer interface or funnel. Let me cover them in detail for you now. Number one, you must have a very logical and intuitive funnel. Starting from the landing page to the final thank you page, all the funnel steps should be coherent. Use category boxes on your landing page to highlight the variety that your product has. Maybe have filters on the listing page to help in the decision making process for customers. Display photos and videos on the product details page in a consistent order. Show all the options available once the customer has selected a product. Maybe pre-fill data and show coupons on price details page and so on. Number two, the redemption process should be displayed very clearly to the customers. Try to minimize any doubt or ambiguity. You can use the product details page to show this, or maybe mention this in the post-booking flow. Number three, give avenues for your customers to raise doubts or queries. You can use either chat or call option for this. At MakeMyTrip, we observed that the conversion of the customers raising queries was quite high, as these customers were already very deep in their purchase decision. And number four, offer reasons to believe to your customers. You need to inform them why they should be buying your products. There are multiple ways to do this, but the most preferred approach would be user-generated content. Show the ratings and reviews of the past customers. You can even use persuasion tags early on if you don't have enough ratings and reviews on few of the products. Just like building your supply, there are some approaches that I would propose for your demand side as well. I would also share some examples about how some of the successful marketplaces have employed them. Number one, word of mouth again. If you look at the composition of growth of Airbnb, word of mouth was by far the biggest driver early on. More than half of their growth, both on the guest side as well as on the host side, came in via word of mouth. Number two, supply-driven demand. Sometimes your suppliers will get in most demand due to their own influence. For example, in case of Eventbrite, most event organizers had some built-in demand that they brought with them. Number three, search engine optimization. This was a top-ranked lever for Grubhub to generate demand. Around 1/3 of all new users were attributed to SEO. Grubhub spun up landing pages for each restaurant and even integrated into Google Local. Number four, performance marketing. I have a very interesting example to share here. The founder of Breather actually created a Twitter ad from his own personal account with a friendly face and a personal message that read, "Breather is launching in New York. Reply to me if you want to try it out." Many users then direct messaged the founder, and he manually ended up onboarding thousands of people, walking them through a 7-step funnel over email. It was very labor intensive, but this hockey stick growth for the company. And finally, number five, public relations. Zillow is a unique example to share here, as it literally started its growth with PR. Wow, this marks the end of previous section on building a marketplace product. And now I want to cover the second part of today's webinar, where I'll give you some growth hacks to scale your marketplace product from 0 to 1. So let's jump in. When we talk about taking the marketplace product to the next level, it is fundamental to have two broad goals to drive the product and business, and then just go behind them with full might. Firstly, focus on getting as much supply as possible, but remember, never at the cost of quality. You simply cannot make any trade-off with quality. You can use API integrations from known vendors to get more supply in lesser time, but only whitelist high-quality products on your platform. And the second goal to be mindful of is to become a category leader in consumer mindset. Whenever your customers think about a product category, your product should be the first one to light up in their minds. For this, you can try out different categories and geographies to find the one that you want to stick with. With these two goals as our basis for this section, let me now share a few hacks to grow your product. First up is marketing and promotion. Along with an eye on SEO, you can try promoting your product on multiple platforms like Facebook ads, display ads, SEM, etc. Keep a tab on the quality of customers being sourced from these platforms and the respective funnel conversions as well. This way, you can find the right marketing source for your product and then focus on it. Your business development team is another marketing tool that you can deploy in your scale up journey. At MakeMyTrip, we were able to increase awareness of our product by putting up stickers at booking counters, installing stalls at the entrance of various monuments in India, and even by calling up interested customers from our own customer support channels. Apart from external publications, you can also work with your company's PR team to publish a few articles on companies' sites, blogs, and social media pages such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Next tip is about exploring new categories to find the best possible product market fit. The finest part of marketplaces, or rather the beauty of marketplaces, is that you have regular inflow of sellers coming in that operate in completely new categories. This provides a unique opportunity to try out new product categories and see if you can make any mark among your customers. Apart from the newer sellers, you can also see the competition to take inspiration for new categories to explore, or maybe to decide which ones to give up. Once you decide a new category, the next step is to get new products or suppliers as quickly as possible. To save time in this, use the vendors that can supply their inventories over APIs. Having said these points, always remember that don't go overboard and try out all the categories under the sun, unless of course you are a super app. Since one of the goals that is fundamental here is the top of mind recall, try to explore subcategories in the same category in which your product currently is. Just like exploring new product categories, you can also explore new territories for your existing product. Sometimes there are hidden needs of your current product in the geographies that did not occur to you in the very first place. Venturing out in new regions will get you new customers as well as new suppliers. I wanted to share two tips with you here. Number one of the ways to scout for new territories is to look at your complementary products. For example, at MakeMyTrip, we saw that many of our customers were booking international flights and then visiting the activities funnel to search international cities. At that point of time, we realized that though we started in domestic locations, but the time has arrived to go international soon. And if you do get leads about multiple geographies and if you're confused, then you can prioritize based on where the larger gaps are in the category that you operate in. When we went international, we started out with the cities where the travelers were booking the maximum flights to. One bonus side note here, sometimes new geographies will actually get you higher revenues as well. Next hack is about developing sales events in your product. These sales events can manifest into multiple formats. You can try out flash sales, scratch cards after every booking, or maybe organizing engaging quizzes. I can bet that you will be surprised by the sheer volume of participation in these events. People still like the suspense of winning something at a cheaper price. You can allocate some part of your marketing budget here sometimes. There are numerous websites, communities, WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, where people are looking for such deals. Do post about your campaigns in such forums to get huge word of mouth immediately. However, tread with caution here, as this might get you a huge influx of deal hunters who will never come back to your product once the event is over. Hence, do not leverage this a lot. Whenever you are running these sales events, keep your IT and infrastructure team ready, as such events will give your IT team a run for their money. The final recommendation for this section is about the age-old metric, funnel conversion. For any marketplace product, shopper conversion is a critical metric. A product manager's day in a marketplace product must start with analyzing this metric and end with it. You need to be obsessed about it. Look at data, conduct user studies, work with your design team for improving UI, and run A/B experiments to improve shopper conversion. You must make improvements on every page of your funnel. Even the very basic page requires constant improvements. Ensure there are no dead ends in your user flow. Some methods that can be deployed to improve conversion are personalizing content, letting users to rate and review products, and giving them all the possible popular payment methods in the geography in which the product is operating. Wow, with that last tip, we have reached the final part of our webinar. In this section, I'm going to share a few guidelines with you to take your product to 10x or maybe 100x level. I'm going to talk about some ideas to add structure and maturity into your product so that any kind of scale doesn't break it. So one last time, let's jump in. While discussing about evolution of marketplace products, we need to emphasize on two very basic values during this phase. These values lay the foundation of the product objectives here. Number one, during this phase, we must ensure making the sellers and buyers self-sufficient. As discussed earlier, there must be an easy onboarding process for any seller. And the customer should be able to reach out to sellers for any help directly or indirectly. The idea here is that product flywheel should continue to roll with minimum effort from your end. And number two, the marketplace product should stand for excellence and be the top of mind recall in the category in which it operates. This is applicable not only for buyers, but for sellers as well. Remember that sometimes your sellers are the biggest advocates for your buyers. I will now spend some time in taking you through some of the strategies that will help your marketplace product to grow without worrying about the problem of scale. The first mantra that I want to share for the evolution of your marketplace product is to remain focused. As mentioned in the previous section, you have the liberty to try out variety of lines of products during the growth phase. However, once you have figured out the product market fit, just focus on the core problem that you want to solve for your sellers and buyers. Failing fast is a good strategy during the growth phase, but remain committed to the ecosystem in the phase after that. However, focus doesn't mean that you will become inflexible. These testing times of COVID-19 have taught us that our products need to be flexible and pivot whenever needed. For a marketplace, this would mean that we continue to explore newer subcategories or go deeper in existing subcategories in the domain that we have decided to focus upon. Next up is a recommendation for empowering new suppliers in your ecosystem. If you are a platform that provides tools and features to the sellers for building on top of your customer interface, then ensure that you provide exhaustive enablement content such as API documents, best practices guides, sample codes to your suppliers. In my current role in Microsoft Teams, I am focusing on solving these core problems for our SaaS vendors. We have exposed various interfaces such as tabs, pop-ups, conversational bots, and message actions to our partners for building business workflows for various enterprises. However, I cannot stress more on the fact that there should be no compromise on the quality of suppliers. If need be, have a review process before onboarding any supplier, or maybe scrutinize the supplier manually as part of the validation process. Trust me, your customers as well as your suppliers will appreciate you for implementing these guardrails. The third strategy that I want to cover is about abiding by the rules of your marketplace playbook. Always stay vigilant about the suppliers and customers that are on your platform. You can use signals from customers to discipline your sellers. Take feedback from the rating and reviews being posted by the customers availing products from your vendors. You can have automated rules to ensure that suppliers fall in line. These can be done in the form of penalizing the low-rated suppliers in the ranking on your listing page or maybe on the search results page. Similarly, there needs to be checks and balances in place for customers who are trying to hack or defraud the platform. On other occasions, there would be agents or middlemen who try to hoard end products by making bulk bookings. They can be discouraged by deploying business logics such as upper limit on number of items that can be sold in one transaction, and so on. This brings us to a complementary point. In the marketplace world, it is not always about negative reinforcement. We need to be equally attentive on rewarding the top suppliers and loyal customers too. There are numerous ways to go about this. The suppliers can be given monetary incentives in the form of higher commissions if they either have top ratings or a threshold number of bookings, or maybe a combination of both of these. In contrast to my previous slide, good suppliers can also be promoted on the listing page or on your search results page. On the demand side, a loyalty program can be introduced in the platform for not only rewarding the regular customers, but also to improve the retention rate. A quick suggestion here would be to keep your loyalty program as simple as possible. Do not invent very complicated terms and conditions to earn and redeem loyalty points. And the final hack that I have for you today is something that gets ignored very often: your customer support. The customer support at any marketplace product needs to be strong and empowered to cut down dependencies. The customer service team is the front desk office for both suppliers and customers. As a result, it is essential to furnish them with comprehensive dashboards, booking details, standard operating procedures or SOPs, and a tool to generate vouchers for compensating customers. Another advice that I want to close today's session with is to have regular cadence with your customer service team, as you would be amazed to know the kinds of customer needs they come back with. Also, these meetings will be a great source for you to find the product gaps that might have escaped in earlier user studies or data insights. With that, we come to the end of today's session. I hope I was able to make last few minutes worthy of your time. Please share your suggestions, feedback, and comments with me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. The link to my profile is given here. It is linkedin.com/in/Ankur Yadav IIMB. So guys, have a great day ahead, and I wish you an awesome journey in your product management career. Thank you.